Hey guys, welcome back to Pastor Rob Fishing. As promised, I'm going to come and with a devotion tonight. It's late on Tuesday, and I hope I get this out in time. But we got busy today doing some things and making phone calls and getting some paperwork and things of that nature ready. So I'm hoping to get this out in time. But I do want to stick with my promise to get a devotion out every Tuesday. So tonight is going to be our first one. And I'm going to read from the Gospel of Luke, the 7th chapter. And there's two verses there that I want to look at, verse 18 and 19. And I want to use that as kind of to direct our thought to something. So there it says, again, Luke 7, 18 and 19. It says, the disciples of John reported all these things to him. And John, calling two of his disciples to him, sent them to the Lord, saying, are you the one who is to come, or shall we look for another? And there's two things that we need to know or to understand. There's some background information that will help put these two verses in perspective for us. And the first thing that we need to understand is that John is incarcerated. John is in jail at this time. And the second thing we need to know is that Jesus has began his earthly ministry, and he's done so while John is in jail. We can go back in the gospel and we can see he has already began to heal the blind. He has already made the mute speak. He's raised life out of death. So his earthly ministry has begun, and John is sitting in a jail cell. And as we look at the text, John hears about these miracles that this guy is performing through his disciples. His disciples came and visited him in jail, and they reported of what they saw and what they've heard. And John sends his disciples back out in order to go and to ask this man, are you the man coming, or should we, look for someone else? So in other words, John is asking, are you the Messiah? Are you Jesus? And a lot of folk, including myself, consider this a strange ask for John because we have to remember that there is a connection, very close connection, the Bible gives us between John and Jesus. John and Jesus, they are kin, they're family. We also remember the story of John leaping in his mother Elizabeth's womb when Mary and Elizabeth were speaking. And not to mention John being called to prepare the way for the coming Messiah, and he did that very successfully. So there, we have to consider the closeness that was there. So it's a strange ask that John would send his disciples to go and ask if this man was indeed Jesus. They know each other well. So I have two theories why this may be tonight that I want to share with you, and I want to use these theories to kind of speak into our life as well. And the first theory I have is maybe John wasn't himself during this time. We remember John was incarcerated. He was in jail. Now, I've never spent a night in jail, but I can only imagine that it's a very dark place. It's a place that would drain you physically and emotionally. And I've watched enough TV shows to know that it's a different life in jail. And I can understand and see how perhaps John's surrounding have changed him. So maybe John isn't himself. He's not thinking correctly. He's exhausted. He's emotionally drained. The darkness that he's been living in has affected him, perhaps to the point to where he wasn't processing things correctly or if he normally would. And with that thought, it makes me wonder, are there times in our life as well where we too are missing what God is doing around us? Surely if John can miss it, then there's things in our life that God is doing that we are missing as well. And maybe we can identify with John, whether it be an experience in jail or not. I'm sure that we've all felt a season of darkness, a season that drains us physically and emotionally. And perhaps during these times, we can identify with John, and all of this just drains us, and we can miss what God is doing around us. I hope that's not the case, but I venture to say that we can identify with that. The second theory I have is this. Perhaps John was looking for or expecting something different out of Jesus. Maybe John was hoping or expecting that when Jesus finally came to this earth, that he would set things to right according to John himself. That maybe he would punish the people who wrongfully sentenced him to jail time. Maybe he was expecting that Jesus would be stern and punish all the wrongdoers of the world and the people that thought and acted differently than he himself did. And because Jesus didn't do these things, maybe John was questioning, is this really the Messiah? Maybe John thought that Jesus was going to come and he was going to divide the world into two camps. Those who were righteous and believed, and those who were of good morale and conduct, and then those that were the opposite. But because this person didn't divide, but instead tried to unite, maybe John questioned if this could really be the Messiah, because he had a wrong understanding. And this thought makes me ponder two things. One, what do we expect out of Jesus, and could we be wrong? And then the other thought is, how do we treat people? You know, it's no secret that we're living in a great time of division. There's division on so many levels in the world in which we currently live. And as I look at John's life here, I wonder, could we be missing something as well? Could we too be expecting something different out of Jesus? Regardless of John's personal feelings or thoughts, Jesus came to unite people together and to unite them back to God the Father. And I believe even in our current culture, in the world in which we currently live, even in all the division that abounds now, I believe that it's still God's plan to unite his people together and back to himself. So I just want to encourage us tonight to love one another, even through our differences. We all have different thoughts, different opinions, but we're all also made in the image of God. So let us love one another. You know, I'm reminded of the famous Dr. Martin Luther King quote. Martin Luther King Day was yesterday. So I want to use a quote of his tonight where he says, "I have decided to stick with love because hate is too great of a burden to bear." So yes, there's going to be people that see the world differently than we do, and that's okay. But I want to remind us that regardless of their viewpoints, they are still God's children. Even if they don't realize it, they are God's children. They are created in his image. And lastly, I want to encourage us to stop, to take a couple deep breaths, and to consider, what could God be doing in our life right now? What could he be doing in my life right now that I'm missing? Well, I hope this kind of helps you. I hope this encourages you. I hope this gives you some spiritual food to digest and to think about. And again, let's just love one another. Let's encourage one another. We're all going through our own battles. Be an encouragement to somebody this week. We'll know that God loves you, and we'll see you next week.